Good afternoon, Mr. Crimminger. I just want to say thanks first off for working with me on this class. I'm recording this from my new house. As you can see, I have my Love Me wall behind me in my new office here in Fayetteville, Arkansas. I haven't picked up the hogs yet, but I'm still a Nebraska Cornhusker fan through and through, which has been quite the interesting experience here so far. But I just want to record this real quick as my presentation. I want to hit some of the highlights of my paper and then talk about my favorite character from the book. I titled the paper American-U.S. Airways Merger and the Antitrust Law That Blocks It. And some of the things that the paper talks about is the current situation with American's bankruptcy, and then I looked at some of the integration issues between American and U.S. Airways, such as labor, the equipment that they operate, their route structure, and how that could benefit them, and what they seek to achieve by merging. And then I also went in and went over the aspects of the argument by the Department of Justice as far as why it is in violation of the antitrust laws that are in effect. So yes, the American Airlines bankruptcy, they filed for bankruptcy covering requesting protection under Chapter 11 so they could reorganize the company, and then that was due to the falling value of the U.S. dollar, as well as the tough labor negotiations that they were underneath, and of course fuel prices that surged over 300% in the past decade, which is all contributing to the effects of that brought down American. And they hadn't seen profits for the past 3.5 years preceding the bankruptcy. They were able to renegotiate the labor contracts underneath the Chapter 11 protection, and that was finalized back in 2012. And with that, they were able to give back pilots 6% of their wages from their previous 23% pay cut. So they did give them back a little bit of money, but they didn't give them back full wages. And I talked about the American and U.S. Airways compatibility. First off, the labor component, the reaction from union leaders as it draws close to the actual commencement of the merger has been a mixed bag. So you have others that are very anxious for it to go down. They see it as a very good thing for labor. And then you have other unions that have objected to it just because they don't think it's going to represent their best interests. The CEO of U.S. Airways has made a statement saying that the first order on the docket is to organize the officers in the company to best align with labor to provide the best value to employees. And so Doug Parker of U.S. Airways is going to continue on as the CEO of American, and then the current CEO of American is going to be assigned a position at board of directors of some higher importance in the company. But they're going to retain the CEO of U.S. American. Routes, there wasn't very much overlap between the two route structures, but it is going to considerably expand their route structure, especially on the eastern seaboard. And this will allow American to improve the continuity of their domestic flights. And they also added a few extra destinations in Europe, but nothing in the way of Asia. And the compatibility of the two carriers that stands out, it puts American as a mega carrier in direct and healthy competition with Southwest, United, and Delta Airlines. So after the merger, they'll be able to stand directly in competition with those three large airlines. The aircraft that they offer are operating right now. American has an aging fleet of MD-80s. And then you have U.S. Airways that primarily operates Airbus aircraft. And in the coming years, already on order, both carriers have a purchase agreement of over 500 new aircraft, which is the largest purchase agreement in the history of air carriers. And they both believe that not their entire fleet, but the majority of their aging fleet should be turned over by as close to as 2017. Talking about the federal antitrust suit, the Department of Justice has filed the suit with support of a number of states' attorney generals because they claim that the effect to consumers is going to be a result in higher airfares as well as reduced services. Because American is currently operating under Chapter 11 bankruptcy laws, they're performing at a level to sustain operations. The Department of Justice says that both U.S. Airways and American can do just fine as they are. They can survive on their own, that there's no reason for them to merge aside from to turn a buck on the public's back, basically. And that after the merger, they're just going to simply monopolize the market and be able to charge higher fares and ancillary fees for baggage and flight changes and whatnot. After the merger, what will happen, though, is that it will cause 80% of the air travel market to be dominated by only 4 air carriers. So that could lead to a lot of collusion between these 4 carriers and almost, in a sense, create a cartel. But that will open up an opportunity for the discount carriers to come in and offer cheaper rates, but with a reduced value. So then that will offer to the traveling public option A and option B. So that's something that American and U.S. are going to ride heavily at the trial when it comes up in November, which the bankruptcy court has approved the merger, so they have gotten the green light from the bank to go forward, but now they just need to stand tall in front of the federal government and explain their case. Both American and U.S. Airways shareholders are very optimistic about the suit and that they're both poised to push through with the merger. If you look at the website, their route map has both overlays of the U.S. American routes and what the combined coverage is going to be. They've sat in front of all sorts of press meetings and talked about it as if it's going down. They're looking at preparing as much as they can for the merger beforehand so that when the merger is approved that they don't just flip the switch and then plunge both air carriers into chaos. They're doing everything they can before that stage to get it organized so that when they do flip the switch that the light will actually come on to the best that it can, which leads to the impact on the public. After the merger, that integration, there's going to be a lot of static involved with that. Previously, when United merged with Northwest, the biggest issues that they had was related to technology, their booking systems, and then some of the kiosks shut down, and then tracking of baggage and whatnot caused a lot of heartache and grief to passengers who were just bumped off flights left and right, or their reservation wasn't even documented whatsoever. So that's something that they're expecting to have to prepare for. Also airfare, and the way it's going to happen is that over the past 5 years, since Delta, Northwest, United, Continental, and Southwest with AirTran were merged together, the price of airfare has increased about 11%, which is takes into account inflation. So it's expected that airfares are going to increase post-merger. And like I said, there's going to be quite a bit of collusion between those 4 air carriers. But they're going to offer such value like as free baggage checking and other upgraded luxuries of flight to entice customers to actually use their service as opposed to discount carriers because of such thing as like their expanded routes and right now up until the merger, or the trial of the merger, American and U.S. Airways are holding fast their fares. They're being very careful not to increase them because they don't want to give the federal government a reason to say no right off the bat or give them any more evidence to support their claim that this is going to cause a monopoly and increase fares immediately. But that is inevitable that the flying public is going to have to pay more for the fares. But in exchange, they're going to have an extremely expanded route structure with increased destinations abroad as well as domestically. And one thing that's going to have, obviously, is there's going to be higher ancillary fees to redeem frequent flyer miles. So that's going to be something expected. Ease of use, until they get their integration totally online and all of the U.S. Airways tails are painted with American's new colors, then it's going to be a hassle and a half for that. But after that, the ease of use, whenever American comes in to change planes, you're going to step over to the next. You're just going to basically set your bags down and wait for the next aircraft to pull right up, and you'll be right there at the station ready to go. Instead of having to go across the airport and go to like the west terminal from the east terminal, get on your connecting flight, because they'll be co-located because they're all American now. Passengers of American can reasonably expect to see an increase in fares. Their services are going to offer a greater value, and the initial integration is going to cause some heartache, but after that it should be a lot easier and they should be able to offer a better service and value. So basically that's what I found from everything I did, all my research that I found. And I reasonably expect that the merger will go through, but since they're the last of the large legacy carriers to merge, then they're going to obviously be under a much, they're going to be under the microscope. The captain of the industry that I wanted to recognize, and he's my favorite from the book, immediately after I read that initial chapter about him, I just thought he was the coolest dude in the whole book, was Herb Keller. And he stands out because of this merger, because he was the legal tactician that saved Southwest, time and time again. And I think that if he was presented with a similar situation, he would have it under wraps. He would know exactly what to do. He would empty out his pockets once again to save the airline and make it happen. But I just thought he was a really cool dude in his personal life because he embodies a stereotypical flyboy. What I see is a typical aviation businessman. He likes to drink, have fun, and he's very adept at getting along with people, which it's funny because he's not the best groomed and clean for that matter, but he's a very, very personable businessman that was always able to strike the right note and get what he needed from someone, and that's why I chose him. That is my presentation. Hopefully it didn't drag on too long, but once again, I really enjoyed the class. I enjoyed watching the playback, and the book was amazing. I read it late into the night, and then on my numerous road trips to and from Omaha to get moved in here, so I really enjoyed it. And once again, thank you for working with me on this, and if you have any questions, just feel free to give me a call or shoot me an email. Thanks.